Incroyable.
Also a long line to get to that point.
But you couldn't just go inside and pick it up from the shelf?
If I could, I want to pay again.
Before I call the meeting to order, I'll just do a roll call. Councillor Howie.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
Present.
Councillor Bath.
Here.
Councillor Fenelon.
Present.
Councillor Legel.
Here.
Councillor Cassidy.
Here.
Okay, I guess I don't see the full screen. That's okay. Good. And staff, there's quite a lot of staff. So CAO, you're here. You're on board.
Yep.
Clerk.
Chief Mayor Lawrence, I'm here.
Deputy Clerk.
I'm here.
And I'll leave I see Carly Collins is showing up. Jody Brinkman, Riley Wills, Christopher Bott, Andrew Jewell. Am I missing anybody, CAO?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Mayor Lawrence, sorry, if I could, I do see there's a 1807, some stars, and then the number ending in 858. Could that person identify themselves, please?
That would be 3858 Kuwait Nasky, I'm guessing, but go ahead.
Oh, perhaps.
That's correct. Kuwait Nasky, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll call the meeting to the regular meeting of Council May 20th to order at 5:30. Again, we're on video. We are live streaming, so my understanding is that the public can see and hear us, but can't raise their hands here. Is that correct, Clerk? So we are public, and this is being recorded for anybody to view later on. Introduction of amendments to the agenda.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson, to confirm the agenda for the regular council meeting of May 20th be approved as presented. All in favor, and silence will indicate approval. Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. And adoption of minutes. We have 4.1, motion to adopt the minutes of the statutory public meeting held on February 19th, 2020, the regular council meeting held on February 19th, 2020, special council meeting minutes held on March 13, 2020, March 17, 2020, March 31, 2020, April 22, 2020, and April 30th, 2020 be approved as presented. That's moved by Councillor Bath and seconded by Councillor Fenelon. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just had one question. I didn't read over the revised meetings, but when I checked them on Friday, when we got there was a mistake in the movings. Was that corrected, Brian, the mover and the seconder?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the mover and the seconder, I wasn't provided information that there was an error with respect to a mover and a seconder in the minutes.
Okay. I just glanced over them just now, and it seemed to be corrected, but there was one in which I was listed as the mover and the seconder, and another one in which Councillor Legel was listed as the mover and the seconder. But it seems to have been, as far, I just scanned over it, but it looks like it's been corrected. But I just wanted to confirm.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll confirm that that's the case when the minutes are printed for signature.
Okay.
Anything further on 4.1? If not, I'll call the motion that we adopt the minutes as listed in item 4.1. Moved by Councillor Bass, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval.
Should we,
sorry, Councillor Timpson.
should we add that as, well, I don't know, what's the wording, as amended, or
I wondered about that, but I thought it was reasonably minor in nature and it's being noted, so it's okay to proceed this way, Clerk?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yes. The minutes are still draft, these are administrative amendments. If there was anything substantive, we'd likely record them as amended. But in this case, it's a relatively minor administrative change. Thanks.
All right, Councillor Timpson?
Yep, that's fine.
All right, we'll move on to item 4.2. That the minutes of the Kenora District Services Board of Directors meeting held on January 16th, 2020 be received. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. Discussion?
Yeah, just one thing. I'd raised it a few months ago. If there could be some way of a more succinct way of telling us what the service board is doing, because it's really, the minutes themselves don't really tell us what's happening. We just get a mover to approve this and a seconder and carried and so on, but we don't get anything or we get the results of a decision, but we don't know what the issue was. So I raise that again as a possibility to take to them this. There's some way of summarizing something on the minute, the substantive thing that we really need to know. Maybe it could be a half a page at the end or something.
So I did take that to the board after you raised it the first time, Councillor Timpson.
Mhm.
And as well, I thought they said, we'll do something, but they do a media release that you may, after each board meeting, there's a media release that basically says the board undertook the following activities. So I will follow up again, but I'll also make sure that you're getting, that those are, Clerk, do you receive those from KDSB?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I only received the minutes.
Okay. I will follow up once again, Councillor Timpson.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, and silence will indicate approval for item 4.2. Carried. Item 4.3, motion to receive minutes of the Environment Committee meeting held on February the 6th, 2020. Moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Howie. Discussion? All in favor? Silence indicating approval. Carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. So since there's quite a lengthy list of items, I think what I'll do is I'll go around the council table once and then twice, a second time for coverage. But when I come to you the first time, just any items that you have. Clerk, is that all right if I don't do it one by one? I'll just have I see your head nodding. So council, if you can look at staff reports, 7.1 through 7.14, I think. I'll start with you, Councillor Howie. Are there any reports, any and all reports that you would like lifted? Councillor Howie.
There we go. Had a hard time with the mute.
That's all right.
No.
And I will come back to you a second time. I'll do the table twice. So carry on. Councillor Howie. Yep.
Could we lift the electronic signatures?
Can you give me a number, please?
Oh, sorry. Yes. That's the 7.4, 7.5, 7.6.
Anything further at this time? I can come back to you and give you a
Yeah, nothing at this time.
Okay, I will come back to you. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, just like maybe 7.1, just briefly, and 7.3. Obviously, we have options there, but I think everything else is okay.
All right, I'll come back to you one more time. Councillor Bath.
Of course, we'd have to lift 7.1, but Joyce has already done that, so. And I wouldn't mind lifting 7.2 for some discussion. I think that's about all.
That's it for now. I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Councillor Fenelon. Councillor Fenelon, not sure if you're muted or unmuted.
Oh, there, sorry. 7 and 7.9.
What was, sorry, the first one?
7.3.
Yep.
And 7.9.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, just 7.2 and 7.3 for me.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
7.1, 7.3, 7.7, 7.10, and 7.11.
All right, I'll go around the table one more time. Councillor Howie.
Nothing further, thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Nothing further?
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, nothing additional.
Councillor Fenelon. Mute Councillor Fenelon.
Okay, that's better. Nothing for me. I'm done.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Nothing further.
Councillor Lego.
Nothing further.
Sorry, I was just checking to make sure that my items got lifted, and I believe they are, so good. Adoption of items not requiring separate discussion. Motion to adopt items 7.8, 7.12, 7.13, 7.14, and 7.15. Did I get that right, clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Fenelon, seconded by Councillor Bath, that the items as read be wording for me, Councillor Clerk.
Yes, that item, the following items are to be adopted by council: items 7.8, 7.12, 7.13, 7.14, and 7.15.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Fenelon, seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor, silence will indicate approval. Carried. So we'll go to staff reports. And we'll start with item 7.1. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. That council receives the 2019 annual reports as per Schedule 22 of Ontario Regulation 170-03, drinking water systems for the Hudson Drinking Water System and the Sioux Urban Drinking Water System on May 20th, 2020. The annual reports prepared by Northern Waterworks Incorporated are presented to Mayor Doug Lawrence, council members, and CIO Michelle LaRose. Discussion starting with Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We, generally, Northern Waterworks is able to come in and help summarize these reports, but obviously it can't happen this time. Is there anything that stands out? I mean, I read through it, but let me be honest. Do I really understand it? No. So is there anything there that that needed to be highlighted that we should know about?
CIO, can I refer this through you to Public Works Manager? CAO LaRose.
Sorry, yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll just go direct to him the next time with questions on this matter, if that's okay. So, Public Works Manager.
Good evening, and through you, Mayor Lawrence. In regards to the question from Councillor Timpson, both reports are, there's nothing out of normal. In fact, both have zero regulatory non-compliance issues and a couple minor water quality incidents which are of no concern. The flows are basically the same throughout past years, and everything is operating as per normal without concern. There is nothing in the reports to raise concern over. In fact, as per previous years, I would consider them very good, and the facilities are both operating very well and within all the parameters specified.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Timpson, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Lego.
Just a couple of questions. I guess Northern Water, they'll have to get back to us unless Andrew can answer these. Just in regards to, I can give them the page and the table. It's page 17 of the report. It's a table 14, just in reference to the historic flow. I'm just wondering why there's from 2011 to 2019, there's such a decrease in our raw water intake and also the treated water. It seems like 2011 we had 888,000 cubic meters, and then in 2019 we only had 755,000 cubic meters of raw water intake. Just wondering why, if our community is growing, why we're consuming less water. And the other question, you want me to do one at a time? I don't know if you can answer these or not.
Why don't we do one at a time? I think the Public Works Manager can answer the first one. So go ahead, Public Works.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I can answer that question on behalf of Northern Waterworks. And some of the most larger differences that we're seeing here are a result of a water distribution system leak detection study that was undertaken in 2014. And therefore there was a few leaks that were detected in the system and repaired, and therefore a reduction in the water for that. However, that would be the main difference between 2012, 2013, and then significant drop to 2014. So after the leak detection study was done and the repairs were made, there was a significant decrease there in the treated water and the raw water. However, in the years post 2014, what we found as a result of repairing all the leaks in the system, that there were some other locations that required bleeders in order to maintain preferred water quality or to deal with water quality complaints. So there was a progressive slight increase in water, but that's to initiating and implementing bleeders in the system at specific locations, which basically were a result of fixing leaks in the system that were essentially acting as bleeders prior to the leak detection study. The raw water going down intake, that could be attributed to the fact that we're wasting less water. They've increased the coagulant dose to the raw water, which makes the particles in the water group together. So because of that, I'm going to say that they're wasting less of the raw water prior to it going through the filter system, because the particles are more contained and dense. So the throughput of the facility is usually around 88%, meaning that the raw water intake versus the treated water, about 12% of water intake daily is wasted in the process itself, just because our water would be considered typically to have a higher volume of organics and so on and so forth. So that percentage of water is wasted prior to going through the filters. Otherwise, the filters wouldn't work efficiently. There'd be excessive fouling and and excessive cleaning. So the wasting of that component is required for the filtration process.
Councilor Lego, next question. Or is that, you good with that response?
No, that's a great answer. Just one more question for the Hudson report. I'm just wondering why there's a difference in the chemicals used. There's only 3 chemicals used in the Hudson water treatment plant, and there's 5 used in Sioux. Is there a difference in the water quality, or why is there a difference in the chemicals used between the two plants?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I can answer that again on behalf of Northern Waterworks, and that's a big difference there is in the type of filtration process between the plants. So the Sioux plant is a membrane filtration plant, and the Hudson plant is a conventional plant, meaning that the filtration is through sediments and sand and so on and so forth. So they both use a coagulant. They just use different types of coagulant, and that's to group the particles in the water together so they get filtered out easier and form flock. And then Sioux also adds fluoride, which the Hudson drinking water system does not have fluoride added to it. And then the citric acid component of the Sioux drinking water system in the water treatment plant is because that's a chemical that's used to clean the membrane filters. However, that's not a component of Hudson because it doesn't utilize membrane filters. So that would be the major difference in the chemical uses between the 2 facilities.
Thank you.
That's good, Councilor Lego.
That's it for me, yes.
Good comprehensive responses. Thanks, Public Works. I'll go to Councilor Bath, also indicated.
I think all my questions have been answered, and I'm just happy that the reports are once again very, very positive, and it's nice to see them coming up that way. I think they're doing a great job. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'll just go around the rest of the table. Councilor Howie, anything on 7.1?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilor Fenelon. And mute Councilor Fenelon.
Sorry, I had my mic turned off again. No, I'm good with it.
Thank you. And finally, Councilor Cassidy.
No, nothing to add. I do agree with Councillor Bath's comments, so it is good to see more good reports coming from this. So let's keep it up.
Thank you. With the amount of testing that's done on our water through Ontario regulations, it's incredible that we have no non-compliance. We've got basically a clean bill of health, I think, Public Works Manager. So good report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and good night.
That's your item. Thank you.
That's my single item. Yes, I'm going to go enjoy the sunshine. Thank you.
How did you arrange for that to be so early on the agenda? All right. I will approval of 7.1. It was moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Receipt, actually, of the report. Thank you. Carried. Item 7.2. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson. The council adopts the 2020 Recreation and Culture Department fees and charges overview as attached to the interim manager of Recreation and Culture's report dated May 20th, 2020. And further, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 5220, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B of bylaw number 28-05, being a bylaw respecting the municipal access points, to establish user fees for the use of municipal access points, and to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Natural Resources, relating to the operation of access points boat launches. That was moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson, and we'll go to Councillor Bath first.
Yeah, just to comment on it, mostly the I'm a little concerned with the rates dropping back to 2018 levels. I think that's really not what we should be doing. It's unfortunate that the rates in 18 were jumped up. I know our recreation manager says 50%. Well, they're not 50%. They're over 100% some of those rates. So there's no doubt there was consumer shock when that happened. And I don't agree with what happened. If that had come to council, that would have never passed. I can tell you that right now. So what I'm concerned about now is we're dropping back to 2018 rates, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should be seeing an increase. So I would have been happy to see a 5%, 10% increase from the 2018 rates when they jumped so high. I'm quite happy to see that, but because I think we should be raising our rates on annually to cover costs. But to jump them right back and start from ground zero again, I really don't think that's the way to go. We've had lots of time now with being shut down for a couple of months to really give this a lot of consideration. Nothing has changed from when we first looked at this back in whatever it was, March. The other concern I have now is in response to the COVID, particularly the weight room and the cardio room. Those are going to be a lot more expensive to operate. So I think we're really going backwards. We're not even holding our own for 2018. We're actually going backwards. And as far as more people coming in, that might happen. But I don't think, I think the best operating costs we've probably had for the rec center have been over the last 2 months.
I'll move to Councillor Cassidy for discussion.
Yeah, just on Councillor Bath's comments there, I think the biggest point of having a recreation facility in our town isn't, I agree we got to cover costs to a certain extent, but to try and run it like a business and keep up in prices and trying to recoup, we're pushing people away. So we're, in essence, what's the point of having it if we're just going to up costs and see less and less people through the door and using the facility? You can see in the graphs that Chris has provided us that there's a lot less people using the facility now. And I think a lot of it was exactly what you said. There was a shock, consumer shock when the prices went up. There's people going elsewhere, or trying to go elsewhere, doing other things, and or people just not using it. So I think it's a good reset to get back and get people active and back into the rec center. And I think if you're gonna do any increases, I don't think you do it on top of the ones that cause the shock in the system and stop people from going there. What you do is you reset, bring people back, and then you implement those increases and move forward that way. Get the people using the facility the way it's meant to be used instead of keeping them out. That's my take on that. My only concerns with some of the rates there were with the seniors, the couples memberships. I would say one person should be 55 and plus and just proof of same address instead of both, in case there's couples with different couple years in age difference and then they don't qualify. My other concern is when you do the math between the senior and the adult couples, it doesn't make sense the couples membership costs more than 2 regular memberships. So I don't, for couples to go in and buy a membership, there's no incentive because there's no cost saving in it. So that was my kind of 2 cents. And I think there's a lot going on with the rates, and maybe if there's a way we could maybe just kind of simplify a bit more, because it's a pretty busy chart, and trying to advertise and post these and have people make sense of them, it might be a little bit just too much. Maybe maybe there's a child, student, adult, senior, and just roll with that and put it that way for memberships. Other than that, that's all I had on that item.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cassidy. I'm going to go around the table here on item 7.2. Councillor Howie, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to agree with Joe that we have to be inclusive, especially when it comes to physical activity in our community. we want to welcome and open the doors as much as possible to people. Also, the chart is pretty busy, so if we could simplify it, make it a little more viewer friendly.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I think that once it reopens, I think it'll be a really good gesture of goodwill, but also the fact that a lot of people are suffering financially after this and after the pandemic, and I think that it'll attract more people to keep it at the 2018 rates. I also think too, and I heard a webinar on this about when recreation centers open again, there with restrictions, pandemic restrictions, there might be a need to limit the number of people coming in. So access to it may be limited because of trying to keep the distancing regulations, which I think are going to go on for quite some time. So I'm in favor of leaving it at 2018 rates. I hadn't done the math to see, to look at whether the percentages fit the numbers and so on, or I didn't calculate whether the senior couple rate was a deal or not a deal, but I think it's reasonable to say, depending what age you are, that's what you pay, and no deals for couples necessarily, perhaps for family. Anyway, but no, I'm in favor of pretty much what was presented here.
Thank you. Councillor Fenelon.
I agree with what John has got to say. I think the rates are all over the place, and I read them, and I don't know, I couldn't quite keep track of what was happening there. So that, and one other thing I thought is that could we look into if the HST could be forgiven for seniors?
Okay, we'll get back to that question then.
Good.
Anything further, Councillor Fenelon?
No, that's good.
Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I agree that the list should be simplified. It is pretty convoluted and lengthy. To me, I don't see an issue with a 5% raise up from the 2018 pricing. We need to run this for a year and see what kind of numbers we get with the decrease. Whether people even notice that there's a decrease, I guess that's going to be up to us to get the word out that prices have dramatically dropped to the public. So hopefully they'll be receptive to that and come out and start using the facility again. And again, the issue with COVID and the restrictions on the number of people and how that's going to affect people wanting to buy a membership this year. So there's a lot to be thought of and considered going forward. So again, just to simplify the list and pricing, and maybe run it for a year, and hopefully people want to come back at those prices.
Thank you. I will go around one more time. I'm just going to, I think Councillor Cassidy started the ball off right for me, and more or less that the word reset, this is a good reset, and I'm comfortable with the rates more or less. I don't disagree. There's a lot of information, and it took me a while to decipher the table. I guess I wasn't looking for one thing in particular, though. If I was going to hone in on a family pass, it's quite there, right there, family pass, and what the options are. I think we're trying to look at everything and understand everything versus if somebody goes to look at it. But I agree, it could be a bit simpler. The one item that struck me was we have quite a few single parent families now, and there's no sort of, I don't know how you consider that, but you either go from an adult couple to a family pass. It might be good, and I'm not voting to complicate the chart anymore, but to somehow consider single family parents, that there's a rate in there that takes into account that style of family, which is it's quite a high percentage of families these days. I will just, I think CAO, I'll go to you, and I'm going to pose the question before I go around the table one more time. Does staff have anything to say to council's comments? And there was one specific question regarding HST forgiveness for seniors. And what about simplifying the table? When does this need to be ready? Do we have a month's grace? I'm guessing the rec center is not going to be open a month. So the CAO, would you like to lead staff comments on this?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Just first to address the HST forgiveness for seniors. We can't forgive the HST because it's a tax that we have to charge unless it's a minor fee for sports. So we would, if we were to do the the HST forgiveness, we would have to reduce the rate and still charge the HST on that because it's remittable to Revenue Canada from the municipality. We have to charge it. We have no choice. Couple other things. Yes, we can simplify it a little bit, but as mentioned earlier, a lot of people that use the facilities are used to this type of rates in different categories because they mix and match and see what's better for them for their situation. And as far as implementation, we'd like to implement as soon as possible. I haven't notified council yet, but we are dealing with a staff member leaving the recreation department, and we have new staff coming back that are being recalled. So we have to get all these rates in before we open back up again. So it's part of the preparation. Not that we have to have it in tomorrow, but it's something that we're trying to get past so that we can move forward. And I will stop here and defer to Chris and or Riley if they would like to comment through you, Mayor Lawrence.
Riley, Chris?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'd just like to include Riley into this. I'll let her talk after me. She had a lot to do with the rates itself. She's dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day basis with the front desk, especially with the memberships. Kind of an overview of the membership categories. It's basically what was on the old list, the adult couple, the senior couple. That was all present in 2018. So we've just basically taken that list and put it back into this one. As far as the rates, not all the rates have dropped to the 2018 prices. I'll let Riley discuss that a little bit more as she has the formula as to what she has done. To get the numbers that she got. I appreciate everybody comments. I'm not going to comment on the COVID stuff because we don't know what's coming our way yet. So it's hard to predict what's going to come down for recreation. So I won't comment on that. But I'll let Riley comment, especially on the membership part of it as she deals with that on a day-to-day basis. Go ahead, Riley.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, just to start with implementation, I basically have the old system and the new system set up to implement the new rates with the click of a button. So that'll be a quick process once council does decide to go ahead with the rates. In terms of the rates themselves, I've used a formula to determine the rates because something that was lacking in the current rates and the 2018 rates was a consistent formula to go from 12 months to 6 months to 3 months, so on and so forth, and also to move from a child to student to adult, so on and so forth. They were kind of just numbers dropped into place with no actual relationship to each other. So what we have used is a formula to basically go that a full 1-year membership for an adult is a set price, which you can see in your forms. And then to move to a 6-month, it is 65% of that annual price. To move to a 3-month, it is 40% of that annual price. To move to a 1-month, it is 20% of that price. 10 pass would be 18%, and a drop-in would be 2.1% of that annual price. And that's something that's consistent through all of the memberships. The numbers are slightly different for court memberships. We used a little bit of different percentage system just to make sure that the rates weren't underselling what we're offering. But there is a system in place in order to keep consistency in terms of adults, seniors, the transition from different lengths of memberships. And then if we were to decide to implement a increase later down the line, be it next year, years to follow, it would impact each membership the same amount because those gaps are not crazy different to move from a 12-month to a 6-month for one demographic, but not another.
Thank you, Riley. Anything further from staff?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'd just like to add that the 10 pass and the 1 month are very popular. we have a lot of people who come in who are just here for work. They could be called away, such as pilots. We have a lot of pilots. So they're just looking for something for a temporary thing. Offering that 1 month pass and the 10 pass is a very popular thing. I don't know the exact numbers, Riley, but the 1 month pass sales we did over the November, December, January was very popular. We sold a lot of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, before I come around the table one more time, I think I would say to my comment after listening to staff is staff know the business. They deal with the public on a regular basis and they deal with the rates on a regular basis. And they're saying, I think we need to trust staff here. And not that we don't normally, I think they know what they're talking about. They know where they're coming from in terms of setting the rates and in terms of the structure of the tables. I'll leave it at that and go around the table one more time for comments, starting with Councillor Howie.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Mayor Lawrence. And I think you raised an interesting point regarding the structure of a family unit to include a rate for single parent families. I think that's worth something investigating. Also, remember that we are trying to be inclusive with physical activity, especially with regards to mental health and in this COVID season of isolation. So I think that these rates are appropriate and it would be worth looking at a year from now if we see that increase in users. That's all I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
No, I agree. I'm happy with it just as is. Yeah, I think it would be worth looking at an extra category of single parents and families of single parents.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, no, nothing further. It's the only thing is I want to make sure that we keep it on the radar that this is an expense that the taxpayers pay, and it should be looked at going up annually to meet at least the cost of living, or at least some of the expense of the of operating the arena. I certainly, or the rec center. I'm sorry. I certainly agree with Councillor Cassidy that a reset is necessary. And like I said, that's how I indicated with the consumer shock idea. But I don't think we want to have a reset and just keep on sitting on our backsides and not resetting it annually, or at least periodically. Probably annually would be the proper way. So.
Thank you. Councillor Fenlon.
No more comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
And nothing further here.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Well, just I like the idea of a single family price or a membership. That's probably one of the most important things. Get people out and using the facility. Besides that, like you said, the staff know they've been doing this long enough. Chris has been there for I don't know how many years. He knows what's going on there, and pricing will reflect that. And they're doing a great job. I just want to thank Chris and Riley for all the effort they put into this.
Thank you, Councillor Lego. So before I call the vote, I'm just going to ask Clerk CAO, can we pass this motion with the direction to include, prepare, introduce a single parent family rate of some form? Clerk?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that can be direction to staff. It would then be brought back at a subsequent meeting for council's approval and then ultimate adoption into the rate structure.
Okay, I heard urgency to get this approved, so I would wanted to have this table approved if council so deems, but with a caveat that add a single parent family rate. Does that have to come back to council?
Unless council wants to direct what that rate should be right now, then normally it would come back to council. Or if council wishes to leave that to staff's discretion, then that can be the direction to staff.
That would be what I'd like council to vote on is this motion plus direction on them setting a fair rate for single family groupings, single parent family groupings. Do I need to add any wording to the resolution?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes. The resolution would, as amended, would read the council adopts the 2020 Recreation and Culture Department fees and charges overview as attached to the interim manager of Recreation and Culture's report dated May 20th, 2020. And further, that council directs staff to establish a single parent family fee structure to be incorporated into the approved fee structure. And further, that council authorizes the passing of bylaw 5220, which is the last part of the resolution.
And the mover was Councillor Howie. The seconder was Councillor Timpson. Are you all right with that amendment? Councillor Howie?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson?
Yes.
Thank you. So moved and seconded, moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson, as read by Mr. Clerk. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Thank you. Carried. 7.3, waterfront development. That council awards the contract for the Sioux waterfront development to RJ Concrete and Construction Limited in the amount as directed by council. And further, the council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 5320, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux and RJ Concrete and Construction Limited for the Sioux waterfront development. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. Discussion, starting Councillor Timpson.
Oh, this is becoming a nightmare, this waterfront. I'm sorry. I don't know, you know, option two, I mean, we might as well almost not do it. It just doesn't seem, it seems like everything is being removed. I do not agree at all with taking away the boardwalks to the marina, because that will take away the accessibility of the whole structure. Are there some things that could be done later, like put the benches in, flowers, all that sort of thing? They could be done at a later time. Could Rotary or one of the service clubs take up some of the slack on it? But I don't know. Option two, I think it just deletes it down to nothing. And I think number one is almost the best that I could see. But I'd like to hear what other people say. But absolutely do not take away the boardwalks if it's going to compromise people in wheelchairs or with mobility issues getting to and from their boat, because then it probably won't be used. So, okay.
All right, thanks, Councillor Timpson, and we will come back to, and I'm going to try and go around, I'm going to the people who lifted first, but try to get a flavor of council before we start getting into real detail. So I'll go to Councillor Fenelon next.
Yes, I think we're gutting it. Oh, this is, if we could have had this discussion back when we did the first phase of it there last year, we could have probably done away with the docking system and stuff like that to forgive quite a bit of money there. I think what we're doing here right now is taking too much out of the main concept of what we wanted to see for the town beach in the years coming.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Cassidy.
I've wrestled with this one all weekend. It's $1 million over and above what we were already planning on, but if we're not doing it to have the stuff that we want there, is it going to get the use that we want? It's not an easy one for sure. I kind of was okay with the grass down to the beaches there. It would still leave some docks or some decking and everything around there. There's still a path past the outdoor stage. And that, the only thing I thought with yeah, I was kind of leaning towards maybe option one, but then it's what's our like. We've put in an application for a new rec center with potentially some significant financial burden, and now we're looking at another $500,000 on top of what it was already going to be. It's yeah, it is a tough one. I don't know. Maybe maybe Jody can speak to what are we like. I know there's some stuff with the funding on this, like that we have to do or targets we have to meet, and how, I don't know. What do we got to meet here that's contingent on the funding here? Because I think I think we're tied to this. We have to do this work to meet the criteria of the funding. So what is the funding that we have to meet, or the stuff we do have to get done here?
Okay, we'll come back. We're going to go around the table first and then do, is that come back to you after, Councillor Cassidy? Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Cassidy that we need to know what's tied to the funding that we got and what we need to do. This was done with good intentions on council's part and staff's part, but it's gone off, to me, it's gone off the rails. These asking the taxpayers for more money, I won't vote for any of these options. That's all off the table for me. I really don't know what staff wants down there. Are we still putting a stage down there? Are we still putting the admin building down there? I don't think we have the money to do any of that. We still owe money on the cafetorium, $185,000. To me, I would like to see use some of that money to pay that off, and you can have all the concerts at the new school. Again, same with what Councillor Timpson was saying. I would like to see the boardwalk there at least. The stuff for the kids with play sets. Benches, public bathroom. I wish we would have known about this before we tore all this stuff down at the beach. It just sort of, it's a very frustrating process. To me, again, we have to see what Jody says about what we're tied into here. But I think we need to minimize, do what we can there, and cut our losses and walk away from this, because I won't vote for any of these options personally. I can't ask the taxpayer for more money on this.
And I've been through everybody who asked to have it lifted, so I'll go to Councillor Howie now.
Yeah, so, just like both Joe and Corey had said, it's a really tough position that you're put in, and to ask the taxpayer how much money do you want to go over budget out of the three options. It's a really, really tough spot. I think what needs to be done is go back, look at what is necessary and how we can work within the budget, not necessarily within these three options. I do agree with Joyce, though, that we have to include accessibility. That's a huge part, accessibility with the sense of the boardwalk and accessibility to the marina, because we have invested a lot of money in that, and we hope to see that become a kind of a focal point of our waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I don't feel any different than anybody else. I'm pretty torn that we're this much over budget. But on the other hand, this is really the kind of the shining light when you come into town. And that was the whole idea when we designed it, and the council of the day. That's what we wanted. We wanted to have, I'll say it in quotations, a Kenora type waterfront, and that's what we were aiming for. And I think that's what the design has led us to. It's unfortunate that we are finding it now, sort of at the last minute, some of these things that how much they're costing. I'm really reluctant to delete things to make it just a bland beach area. I think we need to make sure it still remains something that we're proud of and something we like to look at. So I'm torn. I really don't know where I want to go with this one right at this moment. I think we need to send it back a little bit and see if we can mix and match some of these things and come up with. There's certainly some things we can eliminate. I think when I look at the list, but I don't know the answer.
Thanks, Councillor Bath. I don't very often hear that from you, but
Thank you.
so before I go around the table or invite staff, I'll just make my own comments. I feel that this project, and I agree with Councillor Bath, this project was has been on the books since, I'm going to say 2007, 2008, when the Sioux Lookout Hudson downtown revitalization study, I think, was done. There was an office set up in downtown Sioux Lookout for 6 months where people could go in and give their ideas, and this was part of that revitalization. And I can't say this language, but it's been that we've been chipping away at the revitalization with the intersection at Front and Al Sports Lane there, that intersection with the intersection at the Wellington. Those were all intersections were all part of that revitalization, as was this. I think I agree with Councillor Bath. This is a focal point for the community, and it's, to my mind, it's time to finish it. And when I say finish it, I shouldn't have said finish it. It's time to. We need to move on with this. I'm going to look at the finances just for a moment. There's two other items on the agenda tonight that cover some finances. One of them is the gas tax fund, which there's a recommendation which I'm going to ask to redirect that recommendation. The recommendation is that we apply that gas tax fund to the Hudson Road, a project that we'd already approved long-term debt on. It's already sort of in the bank in our debt barrel. That we take that $326,000 and apply it to this project, the gas tax fund, which is this project is eligible for that. The other one is the surplus from 2018. There's another $55,000. So there's just under $400,000 available in this budget tonight. That is the 55 that's unassigned, and 326 that is being arbitrarily assigned to that could be assigned to this. And then the other thing is, this is, to me, this is a bird in hand versus one in the bush. We know we have the waterfront project. It's been with the municipality for 12 years, and here we are getting close to finishing this part. And we're talking about a recreation center, which we don't know what kind of shape the federal government will be in to fund recreation centers. We don't know whether we'll want to buy into that. We know we bought into this. So we should apply our resources here, and included in that, I would say we apply whatever money we get from the MAT tax this year and for a couple of years until such time as we have some, because this is clearly a tourism, this would be clearly eligible for MAT tax funding. We don't know about the rec center yet, so until such time as we do, go with the projects that we've committed to already. Don't leave them half finished or half baked. That's my take. CAO, does staff want to introduce any comments here at this time, or shall I go around the table one more time?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I would like to defer some of the comments made by council to Jody Brinkman for some comment at this time, and then possibly go around the table again. And Carly also can provide a financial breakdown to you if council is interested in additional information.
So maybe we should start with that financial one first to help. Carly, are you on?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the project funding is broken out into multiple different sections. So it's broken out into site demolition, hard landscaping, which would be curbs. It's also broken out into soft landscaping, which would be benches, the boardwalk, etc., items such as that. The harbor construction, construction in general in regards to the shelter, the washrooms, the area for the vendor. There is a design section in regards to, in the funding, along with a 15% contingency.
Could you speak to the project financing and how much of what, I'm not sure, I think Councillor Cassidy and perhaps Councillor Lego were asking, we need to put so much more money in, but I think the basic $1 million is going to cover that, right? We're not going to be short on putting money in to achieve government financing, are we?
No, we will not.
Under any of these scenarios. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I haven't looked at the full breakdown detail of each option as to how much it would cost for us in each section of the funding application. Jody may have.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jody.
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah, these options would kind of, obviously option 2 would be as, I don't want to say as low as you could go or as minimal as you could go to meet the funding criteria, but all these options would meet the funding criteria of kind of creating economic growth and increasing tourism and increasing activity down at the beach. And that's where like the marina ties into that, as well as the admin building and the new stage, just to better host events down there, as well as the farmers markets, and kind of create a bit of a hub and create economic activity again with the food truck installations. I mean, from the get-go of this project, I think we began to realize that the original anticipated budgets were quite low, and we had hoped through the project, things would come in at better pricing, but clearly it hasn't. Everything is well above what was anticipated during that kind of original SHRET process and downtown revitalization process when they originally developed this conceptual design.
All right. And Treasurer, can I ask you, the idea I floated about reassigning the gas tax to this project, reassigning the general surplus from 2018, and the possibility of, say, 2 years of MAT tax. Any comments on that, CAO or Treasurer?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'm trying to pull up the document in regards that tells me what exactly we can use the federal gas tax for. Recreation isn't an area that I'm familiar with the federal gas tax, so I'm just trying to find that document at the current moment.
Okay.
What, in regards to the 2018 surplus, what usually occurs is when the financial statements are presented to council, a report is usually presented at the same time that asks council's permission to use that year's surplus in the following, to be transferred into the general reserve. Originally, this report was supposed to go to council in March to move it into the general reserve during the 2019 year. We can, if council wants to use that surplus for this project, that is an option that we can do. I'm just trying to stick with our regular decisions on how we use that surplus from year to year. So usually what happens is we move the surplus into the general reserve, and then at a later date, council makes the decision as to what they want to use that funding for. So we can move it into the general reserve, and then from there we can apply it to this project. That would be my recommendation if council wants to use that surplus.
All right. This is going to take a bit of discussion. I'll go around the table once again. Councillor Howie.
Yeah, I think we we look at the redirection of those surpluses and tax. Like Carly had said, she's investigating it. If we do have to move it to general reserve, you know, I don't want to see this project, you know, be performed at half a job, but I also don't want to see the taxpayer have to swallow the hard pill of seeing it go so much over budget. I'm really curious to see what everyone else has to think. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Well, I mean, we're trapped. We almost, in many ways, I just almost think we have to go for broke on this. What's it going to cost if we pull out? What's it going to cost to have nothing there? We'll have a marina, a $500,000 marina that nobody uses, and we'll have a wasteland of a beach nobody will use. What would it cost us so we pull out? What's it going to cost us to bring it back to a usable beach? It'll probably cost us $500,000. I'd be happy to see that $500,000 go into completing the process, along with your suggestion, if we can do it, to use the gas tax and the MAT tax for the other $500,000. That would be my thing. I think if we, and possibly with taking out a few more of the things that we can, stuff that we could replace later on, like benches, that sort of thing. But I think the basic infrastructure, the benches, the boardwalks, the bathrooms, they've got to be in there, or it's just, or we will have thrown $500,000 down the drain if we pull out of this. And yet, actually, we won't throw it down the drain because we'll have to pay that to make the beach livable again. So, I think we need to find a way to do absolutely as much as possible with it. I mean, I was never crazy about this project in the first place, but we're into it. It's really hard to get out of it now. And we'll end up losing more if we try to pull out, or if we even make it a half-baked sort of a beach that really hasn't met the goals that we set when we wanted to do it. So that's all I have to say.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I think I agree pretty much with what Joyce said. She pretty well hit everything right on the nose. I certainly don't want to gut this. And I look at the numbers, and it's $500,000 difference if we do everything or don't do everything. So, you know, if we don't do everything, I think we have nothing. And today, with interest rates where they are, this is probably the best time to be in this situation, if there ever is a good time. The money's going to be pretty cheap to get a hold of. So I think this is the time to go ahead and finish it. Be happy with it. If we try to do all the little odds and ends later, in a few years, 5 years, 10 years, whenever, money is probably going to be a lot more expensive to get. Probably by then we'll be doing maintenance on the place. So I think we need to go ahead with what we started with and bite the bullet.
Thank you. Councillor Fenelon.
Yes, I go back to 2017, 2018. We had a booth at the trade fair and stuff like that. And we had drawings all up on the backdrop of it. The most thing that the people that come around and talk about it and stuff like that, looking at it, disagreed with the boat caches there, docks and whatever. And, you know, I always told them, I said, it's got to come back up for discussion again. And that's the time to hash it out and do what you want with it. But over the years, I mean, I think that project there was brought in around 2010, 2011, somewhere there. And that was a long time to take and make it go unattended. So people's minds changed and stuff like that. And we are where we are right now, and we have to finish it. So, I mean, our fault was not having the people, the meetings with the people at the time when we started this, because of the problem with the fuel oil and stuff like that, the drainage in the town beach there. And it just got prolonged, and we got behind the 8 ball and had to do what we had to do with it. And I'm sorry for the people that come around and said, you know, we disagree with it. And I told them, well, it should be coming to a meeting, and it never did. So we are where we are right now, I guess. And I was happy to see the gas tax was going to down pay the debt on the little bit of road that was done in Hudson here. But I mean, if it means that much to the beach section to try and hang on to it and make something of what we got there look a little bit better, and we should be doing that then. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
So I have a couple of questions, I guess one for the treasurer. If we can't redo the gas tax and apply it to this, like Mayor Lawrence suggested, what impacts will $900,000 of additional long-term debt have on our budget? What is the balance in our general revenue or the general reserve? And for everyone to consider here, if we're talking about doing this all out, we're talking about a $22,000 electronic messaging board. We're talking about $12,000 in mulch. We're talking about $3,000 lifeguard chair. This is a big ask on the taxpayer. I think we need to bite the bullet too here and hammer out a few things that we could live without, take a bit of stuff away from this, potentially that maybe it's a little over the top and a little bit more than what we need, and hone it down before we just bite the bullet and go with it. You bite enough bullets, you run out of teeth. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, as Councillor Cassidy said, it's $950,000 beyond what we thought it was going to be. I would like council, if we're going to go in, to be all in with our MAT tax over how long it's going to take to pay this off. I do not want to see the federal gas tax moved from the mill road. Just that alone is going to save us $80,000, $90,000 in interest, paying that down. I would prefer that stay there. Yeah, and as Councillor Cassidy said, what don't we need? Do we need heated floors? No, I don't think so. There's a whole host of things that I think we shot for the moon on this one. I think we could take it back and remove a few things, get that 950,000 down a bit. But I would like a commitment from council to use, and I don't even know where our MAT tax is sitting right now. We haven't received an update on any of the funds coming in. I know things are slowed down now with COVID. But we need to have a 5 or 8 year plan. If it's going to be the 950,000, I really don't know what we're going to be bringing in for the MAT tax. And then we're going to have to reassess our application for a new recreational facility. Either we're all in with this or we're not. This has already started. It's partly done. I would prefer that we hash this out right now and figure out if we're willing to go all in. And I won't ask taxpayers for another dime. I won't vote for any of these options. If we can use the MAT tax and council around the table agrees on that, then I would agree. I would vote for that option, but I won't go back to the taxpayer to ask for another dime.
Thanks, Councillor Lego. Yeah, and on the gas tax, to my mind, that was sort of new money put against that the Hudson Road. We'd already decided on the debt level for that road, so that money becomes available in my mind if it is if this project is eligible. We already had that commitment for the debt level for the Hudson Road, so this could be put anywhere, and I'm suggesting be put to a live project that instead of taking on debt. I guess the other way to do it is apply it to the Hudson Road and say, all right, that's new money to pay down that loan. Let's take that same amount and say that's the acceptable level of extra debt that we would take on for this project, and then top it up with mat tax and whatever else we could for the remainder of whatever project we agree on here as an idea. I'm sort of looking at you, Councillor Lego. I can't do that at the council table. I'll have to, you're beside me. I'm just not clear. I think when we look at the project, I think it's clear to me, we'd like to take it to as far as we could without being over the top. We'd like to get it back to at least where it was before, and in a new refurbished that we've already done everything underground. We're going to have a nice entry and parking area. We've got a dock system there. Whether it's we have these things. I think we now need to bring back the other things that people expect at the dock. Some boardwalk, the washrooms, change rooms, certainly a play area. And some good areas for all the meetings and all the things that happen there, including possibly the markets. So it's almost to me as if we need to decide how much we would like. I'm not quite clear on the options here, and I don't know if we can, Councillor Lego, unless you're willing to take the chair for and hash this out. I don't know whether we can hash this out over with what we have in front of us. I'm not sure. Can I, CAO, are you still here? Please say yes. CAO?
Yes, I just had to unmute.
Any
staff are hearing everything that council is saying, and I'm thinking that it would be very, very difficult to figure out what exactly is going to go in the project tonight. So what I would suggest, and Jody may want to chime in, but what I would suggest is that staff take it back to the engineers and talk about items that can be removed without ruining the integrity of the whole project.
And it could be added on at a later date,
yeah, added on without changing the whole concept of the redevelopment. If council's agreeable to that, we can go back and take a look at what we can do and changes we can make without losing the overall concept of it, and come back with some options.
And also, I think discussion on the MAT tax, numbers for that. And I know it's very difficult to estimate. Now you'll have to make some assumptions or a range of assumptions. And any other, the possibility of the gas tax, because I mean, I know Councillor Lego stayed one position. There might be a range of positions on that, and they might not be possible at all. But I think there will be timelines on this. We have a bid on, I don't know what we have a bid on the table that will only be valid for a certain number of days.
Correct, and I'm not sure, perhaps Jody can speak to that at this moment. I'm not sure what their timelines are to finalize the contract with the contractor on this project, so he may be able to speak to that right now.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'll let Norm Lawrence speak to that. They've been dealing with that, the day-to-day of that.
Yeah, we do have, it's Norm Lawrence. We do have an option in the contract to ask for an extension on the pricing, so I could certainly get in touch with the contractor tomorrow and give him notice that we need a little bit more time to come to a resolution on what the scope is going to be.
What's our deadline right now?
Right now, we're probably within, I'd say, a couple weeks. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but I'd say in about 2 weeks we would be expired. So if I give them notice now, I think we're fine.
Well, I was thinking 2 weeks would be plenty. I think that this needs some hard work right away and a special council meeting on this topic to finalize it. So, I would look at 10 to 12 days that we're coming together to make with what the CAO and staff bring forward, working with the consultant and making a decision, hashing it out at that time. And you could ask for the extension, but if we have 2 weeks, CAO and Jody, consultant, can we get this done?
I'm not the one that's been directly negotiating and dealing with this, so I would put this through you, Mayor Lawrence, put this question to Jody, but that was my thought process, that perhaps we could be returned in about 2 weeks' time or within 2 weeks.
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah, I agree. We gotta get the ball rolling here. Summer's short, and we gotta have this work done by the end of the year this year. So we'll, hammer that out as quickly as we can, trying to maintain the integrity of the project and look at, like Corey was saying, some of these things, electronic message boards and some of the signage and some of the benches, see where we can save, and look at maybe some of these items purchasing down the road in a different manner.
And I think the target should be to get somewhere around it. I'm just going to, the $500,000-600,000 overage, I think would include the necessary elements. How many years of mat tax will that take to get there on an estimate, a range of years? And is there any other funding that could be applied? What other scenarios? But I think that's where you're looking at, is taking off some of those things you've talked about and a few other items, and getting it down to sort of more or less half the value of the current over tender, and then how we're going to fund it, and then council can wrangle between a range around there, because I think there's a feeling, the average feeling on council is somewhere in the middle of all this. It's not to chop the project off here, and it's not to put everything in. Those views might have been expressed. In the end, I think council's going to end up somewhere in the middle of this, with the intent of trying to find money through mat tax and other such avenues, and limit if any extra money to the debt. Is that fair enough, council? I'll go around one more time and ask Councillor Howie.
Absolutely.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I agree with that approach.
Councillor Bath. Councillor Bath.
Yes, I agree with that.
You, Councillor Fanlon.
Yes, I agree with it.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yes.
Councillor Legal.
Yes, and maybe also if there's any surplus coming from 2019, when everything's said and done, we can look at that as well.
So I know there was a motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk, how do we proceed from here to give direction to staff, and does staff feel they have adequate direction?
Through Mayor Lawrence, thanks. So to remove the resolution, and it sounds like through the discussion you just had with members that both the mover and the seconder are amenable to the proposed way forward. So it would just be a matter of them agreeing to withdraw this motion. Whether or not staff requires a written motion for direction, I would defer to the CAO for that.
All right, so I'll go to the CAO first. CAO. I know at meetings recently, I've been hitting my speaker button instead of my unmute button, and doing quite a bit of this silent talk, but.
Can you hear me now?
There we go, thank you.
Sorry, it said it was unmuted, but sorry. Through you, Your Worship, I think that I've taken really good notes, so I think that we have the direction moving forward.
All right. So I'll ask Councillor Bath, who moved the motion, and Councillor Fallon, who seconded, if they would, in the clerk's words, remove it from the table?
Yes.
Withdraw.
Withdraw.
Withdraw. Thank you. Councillor Bath, yes. Councillor Fallon? Councillor Fallon?
Sorry, I was on mute again.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
I agree with withdrawing the motion.
Okay, so, and then we'll look to staff calling a special meeting of council sometime in the next 2 weeks or less. Correct, CAO?
Correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. We're an hour and a half in. How about a 5-minute health break? Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, Norm, for joining in. We'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 7 p.m. Is that fair enough, Mr. Clerk?
There. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Fenelon, thank you. Councillor Timpson's back. Councillor Howie, are you back?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Lego,
Yes, sir.
Councillor Cassidy,
Yeah, I'm here.
thank you. Councillor Bath,
I'm here.
CAO, CAO,
I believe she's away from her monitor at the moment, Mayor Lawrence.
oh, thank you. And Deputy Clerk, okay, I'll just give one more minute.
I'm here.
Oh, thank you.
CAO is back, Mayor Lawrence.
Thank you. So I will reconvene the meeting at 7 o'clock and start off with item 7.4, signing authority. The council authorizes the signing authorities for the municipal banking purposes as follows. One of the following signers: Douglas Lawrence, Corey Lego, Joe Cassidy, John Bath, Don Fenelon, Connor Howie, or Joyce Timpson, and one of the following co-signers: Michelle LaRose, Brian McKinnon, or Carly Collins. And further, the council authorizes the signing authorities for the municipal legal documents as follows. One of the following signers: Douglas Lawrence, Corey Lego, Joe Cassidy, John Bath, Don Fenelon, Connor Howie, or Joyce Timpson. And one of the following co-signers: Michelle LaRose, Brian McKinnon, or Carly Collins. And further, the council deems this resolution to supersede any similar resolutions regarding the appointment of signing authorities for municipal banking and legal documents purposes. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. And discussion starting was Councillor Howie lifted the item. Councillor Howie.
Yes, thank you. I just, I regret it was my error in lifting this item along with 7.5 and 7.6 for separate discussion. I am in favor of them. My apologies. Thank you.
That's all right. You've set us on a path of motion here. Is there any further discussion on item 7.4, Council? Then I will call the vote. Having read the motion, moved by Councillor Cassidy and seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Carried. Item 7.5, electronic signatures, airport BMO account. Whereas for the convenience of the corporation of the municipality of Sioux, the company requests that checks drawn on Bank of Montreal, the bank, against the company's account numbers, and may be signed by affixing one or more signatures by using a rubber stamp or a mechanically or electronically reproduced signature, each a facsimile signature in place of handwritten signature. Therefore, be it resolved that, I didn't realize this was so long, that the bank is hereby authorized and directed to pay any and all checks or instruments purporting to be checks of the company presented for payment bearing a facsimile signature of any of the following officers who have been duly authorized to sign checks for and on behalf of the company: Douglas Lawrence, Carly Collins. 2, that such checks or instruments shall have the same legal effect, may be dealt with to all intents and purposes, and shall bind the company as fully and effectually as if signed in the handwriting of and duly issued by such officer or officers for and on behalf of the company, regardless of howsoever or by whosoever a facsimile signature shall have been affixed. 3, that the company shall provide the bank with a certified copy of this resolution and a certified specimen of such facsimile signature, and that such resolution may be acted upon by each branch of the bank with which and dealings are had by the company until notice to the contrary of any change therein has been given in writing to the bank. Moved by Councillor Howie and seconded by Councillor Timpson. Any discussion on item 7.5? Councillor Howie.
Again, I apologize and I have none. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson. Councillor Timpson. All
Sorry,
right.
comment. No.
Okay, thank you. That's the mover and the seconder, and I will just ask for all in favor, and silence will indicate approval. All in favor? Carried. Clerk, could you handle item 7.6 in whichever way you think necessary?
Certainly, through Mayor Lawrence. And just so you know, in this case, it wasn't staff who developed the wording. It's prescribed by the bank. So we do apologize for the lengthy resolution. I can read the resolution for item 7.6 if you like. So very, very similar to 7.5, but just applies to a different bank account. In this case, the municipality. The first one was for the airport. Whereas for the convenience of the corporation of the municipality of Sioux, the company requests that checks drawn on the Bank of Montreal, the bank, against the company's account number may be signed by affixing one or more signatures by using a rubber stamp or a mechanically or electronically reproduced signature, each a facsimile signature in place of a handwritten signature. Therefore, be it resolved, 1, that the bank is hereby authorized and directed to pay any and all checks or instruments purporting to be checks of the company presented for payment bearing a facsimile signature of any of the following officers who have been duly authorized to sign checks for and on behalf of the company: Doug Lawrence, Carly Collins. Number 2, that such checks or instruments shall have the same legal effect and may be dealt with to all intents and purposes, and shall bind the company as fully and effectively if signed in the handwriting of and duly issued by such officers for and on behalf of the company, regardless of howsoever or by whosoever a facsimile signature shall have been affixed. And number 3, that the company shall provide the bank with a certified copy of this resolution and a certified specimen of each such facsimile signature, and that such resolution may be acted upon by each branch of the bank with which and dealings are had by the company until notice to the contrary or of any change therein has been given in writing to the bank.
Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. Any discussion? All in favor, silence will indicate approval. Carried. Item 7.7, that council authorizes the transfer of the remaining 2018 municipal surplus of $55,793.76 into the general reserve. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego, and discussion lifted by starting with Councillor Lego.
Since we've already discussed 55,000, I was just concerned about the 40,000 still owed on the boat launch, or from the rec department that's sitting on our books. Well, $42,000 that's still owed. I guess until we figure out what we're going to do with this surplus, if we're going to move it over to the waterfront development. I just have concerns that this has been sitting on our books for 5 years and hasn't been touched. We need to take care of that debt. My suggestion was going to be to use some of that money that was wanting to go into general revenue to pay down part of that debt or the full thing, but we will see what happens at our next meeting with the waterfront development and that 55,000.
All right, Treasurer, did you have any CAO through you, comments from the treasurer on Councillor Lego's comment?
Thank you, Worship. I'll let our treasurer speak to that, and then I may add some additional comments.
So through you, Mayor Lawrence, what I'd like to do with that is to get it off our books and put it into the general reserve for our 2019, on our 2019 books. Then if council wants to use that money to either make a decision for pay off the boat launch or to be placed on the waterfront development project, then we can just move that money out of the reserve and then into whatever location they choose at that time. That's best practice for what usually occurs with the surplus.
Thank you. I'll go around the table. Any further comments on this? Councillor Howie.
And thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
No comments.
Councillor Bath. Councillor Bath.
You're muted again.
No comment. Did I get it?
Thank you. Councillor Fenlon.
No comment.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, Treasurer, could you confirm? I have a copy of the reserve and reserve funds in front of me. And is it the general capital under the reserves? Is that the same general reserve we're talking about?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that is correct.
Okay, so then that'd be at the end of 2020, we would have about 52,000 in that account before this transfer.
As of right now, with our unaudited 2019 books, our general capital reserve account is currently sitting at $114,000. Now, some of that money is earmarked for a new server, which is in Brian's department. So that would have to be taken off. And I believe there is $20,000 in there that's earmarked already for a project. And the rest would be part of the 2018 surplus and then whatever we've had in there from the past.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lego.
The only thing I also want to bring up would be we do have, I think, about 55,000 sitting in a recreation reserve. If we ever get to discussions about the 40,000 still owed, maybe that could be partially used or used to just cover that and then start fresh with the recreation reserve. I believe there's about 55,000 from our last budget that's sitting in there. It's not earmarked for anything. So I don't know if the treasurer can confirm that or not at this time, or if she can get back to us. But I think at some point we need to look at all our reserves and see if that money could be used for different things, or if we can move some of it and use it to pay off that debt, and maybe even look at for the waterfront as well.
So through you, Mayor Lawrence, next month I have a report going to council to give everyone a look as to what our 2019 reserve and reserve funds are for actuals. Just keep in mind that they are unaudited still. With that, I was also going to point out which reserve and reserve funds have bylaws and other council resolutions attached to that, so that you guys know which ones have bylaws, which if you decide to change that, would require additional work from staff.
Great, thanks. That's coming in the next council meeting, you said?
That is correct, in June.
Thank you, Treasurer. Any further comments on item 7.7?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just in response to Councillor Lego, that $55,000, if I remember correctly, that was set up as a fund. And I think it only was contributed to it for 1 year back in about 2015 or 16 for a new recreation facility. That was, and I think there was a resolution attached to it that was where it was to go.
Yeah, I think it was for the, to be put towards the study itself, from my recollection. So we've already got a study done, like Quaitnaski on that. So if that money's not needed for that, then we may be able to look at shifting that money, and whether we have to do it through bylaw, but we can wait for the treasurer's report next month.
But there was money put aside for the recreation, building a recreation at some point. I don't know where it is.
You're looking under your desk suspiciously, but okay.
Yeah, I've got some papers here. No, but I do recall that there was a reserve fund set up specifically for a recreation facility.
All right, anything further on 7.7, Council? All right, it was moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? And silence will indicate approval. Carried. 7.9. The council approves allocating the additional 2019 federal gas tax revenues totaling $326,842.49 to the Mill Road Reconstruction Project. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Timpson. And I'll start the discussion with Councillor Fenelon.
Don't know what we're gonna, I'd like to see it go to the mill, but we gotta figure out what we're gonna do with the beach place right now. And so I don't know if we can make a decision if we're gonna not to take that money right now.
Okay, I'll go around the table. Councillor Howie.
I agree with Councillor Fenelon. We need to look at the options. So I don't think we can make a decision just yet.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to defer this to the meeting in which we discuss the town beach.
Councillor Bath.
I agree with that.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. We just have to find out if we're allowed to move that gas tax to this project, and that'll make our decision for us.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the mover, Councillor Howie, and the seconder, Councillor Timpson. Are you all right if we withdraw this resolution? Councillor Howie.
Yes, I'm okay with the withdrawal.
And clerk, I hope I'm doing this right. Let me know if I'm not. Councillor Timpson.
Yes, I agree.
Clerk, is that acceptable?
Absolutely, Mayor Lawrence.
Thank you. So that item is withdrawn and we can move on. Thank you.
That's correct.
Item 7.10, taxation update. The council receives the treasurer's 2020 taxation update report dated May 20th, 2020 as information. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. And we'll start the discussion with Councillor Lego, I believe. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, just a question for the treasurer. I see that we're only down about 5%, down about 82% of the taxes, interim taxes have been paid. My question is, in 2019 of that, so there was 87% paid about that time at the end of April for the interim taxes. Did we collect the rest of the taxes throughout the year, or did we just collect the 87%? So I'm just worried that we're going to be down to the 82%, and are we still able to collect those taxes throughout the year, or what percentage are we going to get back if she knows that?
Treasurer, CAO through Treasurer.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, I didn't, at the end of 2019, we were roughly around the $800,000 mark for unpaid taxes of 2019. So we did receive payments throughout the year to pay for that. The other thing that I've noticed lately is since April, since the end of April, we have been receiving payments for ones that were outstanding, and we've also been receiving payments for taxation for the next run of bills also. So I really won't know the whole true effect that this has had on our taxation until the fall. As of right now, I've only had a handful of businesses and residents that have contacted the municipality stating that they would be having troubles paying their taxation this year. Those customers have always been up to date with us and have never had problems paying their taxes. So I really won't know what the whole picture is going to look like until the fall.
Councilor Lego, anything further on that?
No, sir. That's good. Appreciate that, Carly.
Thank you. We'll go around the table on item 7.10. Councilor Howie.
No comment. Thank you.
Councilor Timpson.
No comment.
Councilor Bath.
No comment.
Councilor Fenlon.
No comment.
Councilor Cassidy.
I think the fact that we're only down 5% from last year is quite impressive, and I'm glad to hear that the Treasury Department's working with those people to help square up in the state of things that these businesses and people are in. So it's good to hear.
Thank you. And finally, Councilor Lego.
No further questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
One
Sorry, Councilor
question.
Timpson, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondered, you know, obviously we don't need to know who what the businesses are, but is there some, like, do you have any sense of the kinds of businesses that are struggling? Is it restaurants or hospitality, or are you able to just let us know, you know, what category of businesses are struggling right now?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, it's a wide variety. So it's not one particular type of business that has contacted the municipality.
Okay.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, all in favor? Silence will indicate approval.
Yep.
Thank you. Carried. Moving to 7.11, Statement of Council Remuneration and Expenses. The council receives the statement of the 2019 remuneration and expenses paid to members of council for the fiscal period January 1st to December 31st, 2019, in accordance with 1, Section 284(1) of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, 2, Bylaw number 86-18, being a bylaw to set the remuneration to be paid to the mayor and members of council. 3, policy number 1-06, being a policy to govern the travel expenses paid to members of council. And there's no more and, clerk?
To you, Mayor Lawrence, my apologies. No further clauses.
We'll delete the final and this will be moved by, I hope I'm getting this right, moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Howie. And discussion, starting with Councillor Lego.
Yeah, just one question on the chart that was given at the end of the report. Just in column 3, the per diem, what is that for? If the treasurer can answer, or the CAO, just column 3 of the chart there, it says per diem.
Would you like me to answer that, Treasurer?
Yes, please.
Okay. The per diem in the chart pertains to a salary or per diem honorarium that members of council get to go to meetings that are either half a day or a full day when they're out of town or out of the district. So they put in, if you go to a meeting, you're allowed to claim a per diem, and you fill out the forms for it, and then I authorize it and gets paid through finance.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, it doesn't get paid through finance, it goes on payroll. That's my mistake.
Thank you.
I'll go around the table. Councillor Howie.
No comment, thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
No comment.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, just a quick comment on the travel, municipal travel under my name. I only did one trip last year, and that was to Ogra to make a presentation about transit. And that was on an invitation from Ogra. I understood they paid that entire trip. I'm just curious where the travel would have come from.
Oh, if you just bear with me for 1 second, Councillor Bath, I just have to go back to the report. Okay, we'd have to follow up on that to determine whether or not we got reimbursed, because if we got reimbursed, then that amount would be lower. So we'll go back and verify those amounts.
All right, Councillor Bath.
Yeah, fine, sorry, yeah.
Councillor Fenlon.
I'm good with it, yep.
Councillor Cassidy.
Nothing here.
Councillor Lego.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. So this was moved by Councillor Timpson and seconded by Councillor Howie. I will call the vote, and silence indicates approval. All in favor? Carried. So that moves us to bylaws. Correct, clerk?
That's correct, Mayor Lawrence.
And you could lead us through that. Thank you.
Certainly. Through Mayor Lawrence, there are bylaws to be introduced and approved for 3 readings and approval. First is bylaw number 3220, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 7915, being a bylaw to establish terms of reference for council-created committees and to rescind other old terms of references for committees. This is respecting changing the number of members of the Environment Committee, increasing it from 9 to 10. Bylaw number 5220, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B of bylaw number 2805, pertaining to the fees charged for the boat launch passes, daily, weekly, and seasonally. Bylaw number 5320 actually has been withdrawn, as that particular item and contract is to be further negotiated. So bylaw number 5320 is no longer part of the bylaws to be approved this evening.
So thank you, clerk. That will be moved by Councillor Fallon and seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor? Silence indicates approval. Carried. Thank you. Item 10, members of council, mayor's report. Members of council, starting with Councillor Howie.
Nothing further, thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Is this the councillor update?
Yeah, item 10, councillor updates. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor.
I guess we're going back to February, eh? Anyway, I won't go into every little thing, but Environment Committee, we met and there's been, we're very happy that we can expand our committee now. We can invite people to be members who have expressed interest. We been busy. The members have been writing articles for the newspaper and they've been asking for edits and so on. And so we're busy with that. I'm trying to sort out whether we can go ahead with the curbside swap. I think I sorted that out today with the health unit. We've had 2 or 3 library meetings. The library has continued to be active in that there was training offered to the staff, some online programs and so on also offered, and there will be pickup, curbside pickup of the books starting next week, I believe. I've attended the Northwest Health Unit weekly updates on the virus, the pandemic situation as it pertains to us here. Very interesting, very worthwhile. 2 KDMA meetings. A lot of concern among the mayors about the opening of the U.S. border, with due recognition of the effect it's going to have on tourism. But given that so many of the border states to us are states which have relaxed their regulations for the pandemic, we are very, very worried. And apparently the mayors have made it very clear to the Member of Parliament of their feelings about this. It's another very difficult situation, and I think that the mayors are also hoping to push for some sort of relief for the tourist operators who suffer as a result of this. And other than that, oh yeah, I've attended them, but we get this note from Municipal World about their podcasts. You know, and they have these little half-hour, 15-minute to half-hour conversations between the editor of the magazine and various people around the country on what they're doing, you know, in response to the COVID-19 and some of their strategies. Really very interesting, and they don't take a lot of time, and I'm finding them very interesting. So I would suggest, if you haven't heard any, give them a try. They're really good. And then plus everybody and their uncle has got a podcast or a webinar going. So no matter any group you belong to, you can be on webinars all day now. You can even go to the Symphony. You can go to the National Theatre of London, everything. So we're not bored. Anyway, that was my, that's been my 2 months, I guess. 3 months, is it? That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Timpson. Councillor Bath.
Just mostly Pace and Hydro. So these have all been virtual, of course, since meetings were closed down. We've been very active at Pace. Pace has actually been under the COVID Regional Recovery and Relief Fund. Pace will be receiving quite a bit of cash that it can give out as loans, repayable loans, with a possibility of people not paying back 25% of the loan. So this is designed for business. It's something like the one that was put out earlier for individuals. I forget what the initials for that were, but this is for businesses. It's up to $40,000. There's no interest until 2021. And then if you pay it off by 2022, then you get the $10,000 free. So it's a good deal if you can work at it. So Pace is going to be charged with handing that out or doling that out, I guess, to the people, to applicants who come in. There's been a bit of loan activity with Pace, not a lot, of course. Everybody's fairly nervous right now, but this is kind of an interesting project. We hope to roll that out in probably next week, and it will be post-dated back to March 15th. Hydro, you just have been a lot of activity on hydro. It's been very busy lately, and it's interesting doing those meetings with virtually. It's very similar to a council meeting. There's a lot of formality. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Fenlon.
Yes, had two meetings, one LCC license meetings with the MNR. In April, had one there, and I missed the one that was just on the 12th of May here. But a couple of things in the one on April. The Sioux plan for the forest has been upset a little bit with because the people of Hudson, Sioux, and I think a couple from Sioux Lookout are complaining of the cut that's been so close to the municipality and on the roadways going on the Goody Lake Road down that way there. So that's putting a slowdown on the license, not the license, but the new plan for 2021, I believe it is. That's coming through. So they have to, the plan authors and the MNR are going to have to work together to figure out how they're going to address the people's complaints about what's happening on the forest and around Hudson at this time. And another thing to note that John Conacher was the acting manager, I guess, or district manager, and up until now, and I think the manager is in Dryden, from Dryden, one that manages the ministry in Dryden at this time. I don't know if anybody from staff knows that or not, but the manager from Dryden is looking after the Sioux Lookout station. I think that's right. And if it's wrong, well,
Ray Boudreau is his name now.
Yeah, from Dryden. Okay, and that's it for me, I guess. Oh, and I got one other thing. I sent an email around to everybody just before the meeting of there's a I have to dig it up myself, can't remember, but somebody's looking for the first response vehicle, a Native organization in Fort Francis is looking for the first response vehicle, as we are no longer utilizing it right now, and I don't foresee in the future much response from people wanting to be on a first response group in Hudson at this time. So we have this vehicle sitting here, and they're looking to see if they can get a donation from the municipality, because the vehicle is in the municipality's name, to hand it over to this group in Fort Francis somewhere. They talked to the guy, and he sent the letter, and it's up to the staff and the mayor, I guess, to say yes or no to this. And if we can do it and get it over done with, and give us a little bit of fanfare for donating it. Again, Hudson is not going to utilize it. I'm just looking up for his email. I got it. I think it's Mark Cudney out of Kenora. He deals with first responder groups and stuff like that. I talked to the fire chief for a bit today about it. He has no qualms about it, but it has to go back through council and staff to be okay. Any comments from anybody else about it?
Can we, just not sure about the clerk, can we discuss this at this time, or can we ask?
To you, Mayor Lawrence, normally we do have a disposal of assets policy that council has approved. It's part of the procurement bylaw. My recommendation normally with a matter like this, this would go to staff for a staff report that would, provide considerations, including, residual value of the vehicle and, other types of considerations. It would outline what our, what council's procurement bylaw says with respect to disposal of assets and make recommendations in that respect. I'm not entirely sure what the turnaround time is on the request. I suspect sooner rather than later, but that would normally be how we would deal with requests of this nature.
Thank you. CAO, how would you like to proceed with this?
Having heard about this for the first time this evening, I haven't even had a chance to talk to staff, so I would like that time to follow up and follow procedure as the clerk has mentioned just previous to me speaking.
All right, so maybe you could communicate with Councillor Fenelon and if there needs to be a communication back to the requester saying that it's under consideration.
Sure. I'll follow up with Councillor Fenelon.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Councillor Fenelon?
Yes, that's good. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy?
Not a whole lot to report here. Just been monitoring my emails and talking to people, and now they're making out. And just the one thing I've been really just trying to do is make sure I get around and support all the businesses that are still operating and open right now, and try and spread it around to just kind of support them a bit in this time. So that's kind of been my my couple months, and then running daycare out of my house for one. So that's been about it. So
You better be careful how you put that, running daycare out of your house.
Are you taking any new clients?
for one.
Okay.
Don't know if you count the dog or not.
Thank you. Councillor Lego?
None of my committees are on the go at the moment. Been in communication via email with the Kenora Home for the Aged. They're proceeding along with the guidelines that were put in place. Everything's looking good there. No real cases, so I'm just waiting for some semblance of normalcy to come back, maybe in July. But we'll see.
Good luck.
Good luck, yes.
Finally, I have a prediction. All right, July. Thank you. Good. The boards I'm on have continued to meet through video conference, the District Services Board, the Health Unit. NOMA through teleconference had one meeting. And the Health Unit, you see all the news that's fit to print, I think. The board's focus in part, and my focus has been on just communications, working with staff on communications, what's working, what's not. We have both those boards are meeting. The District Services Board meets tomorrow, and the Health Unit meets on this Friday as boards. Media, there's periodic requests for comments from media. I tried to get a weekly Mayor's Desk article out. I think I missed 1 or 2 weeks. I'm planning something for this week. In the office periodically, mostly working at home now. The last 2 or 3 weeks have been largely at home. And we all got into, I think, a much more stable kind of quieter acceptance of the new status quo. That's changing as we begin to move out of the status quo. The Friendship Accord, we've been meeting bi-weekly on teleconferences, and today we met, and it was the second time that I invited the Dr. Ian Gemmell, Dr. Kit Young-Hun, Marilyn Herbaz, and Henry Wall to participate, and with the chiefs and myself and Economic Development Officer and the CAO. And I think really good discussion, and the First Nations appreciate that, and so do the boards, the agencies, hearing the concerns and where the concerns meet in our communities as well, the overlapping concerns. So that's informal, but it's a good discussion. Periodic updates with the CAO, and then involved in some of the various calls, the vulnerable population was a weekly call, various agencies, about 10 agencies. The Municipal Northwest Health Unit, I think that's still a weekly call. And then the local community information sharing call that the CIA organizes with multiple agencies, but there was less and less information to share, so I think they've gone to a 2-week interval now. But people still called in and appreciated the opportunity. So that's how I've been inviting my time. And we are ready to move into closed session. So with that, I think we signal a slight change in the technology. And we're invited to join. Clerk, do you want to lead us through the technology here?
Certainly. Through Mayor Lawrence, people will see on their screens an invitation to join a breakout room. If you can click join, it'll bring you into the...
I guess I better do the motion in open session first. Is that right?
Please. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get that done. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy, that we move into closed session to discuss matters of a general nature at 7:45 p.m. 1, subject matter relating to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. 1 item, private development on the south side of the municipality. And item 2, subject matter relating to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. 1 item, appointments to council boards, commissions, committees, membership. All in favor? Silence indicates approval. Carried. So lead us through into moving into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Lawrence. Yeah, so there is somewhere on your screen, you will see either a pop-up or a little button that says the host is inviting you to join a breakout room. And there's a button there to click join. So when you do that, that will move you into our closed session meeting room, which isn't available obviously to the general public. We do ask that the public stand by. The live streaming will be paused for the duration of closed session portion of the meeting, and then council will reconvene in open session to close the meeting shortly thereafter. I'd invite everyone to move into closed session at this time.
All right, are we all back?
Here we are.
We're down to 10, and we lost Jody, which makes sense, right? 10 participants? I believe we're all back. I'll proceed with the report out from closed session. Ratification of resolutions, passing of resolutions. Clerk, lead me through this, please.
Certainly, through you, Mayor Lawrence, there will be 2 resolutions. The first one will simply be to ratify direction provided to staff in closed session respecting a potential land sale.
Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Bath. All in favor? Silence will indicate approval. Carried. Thank you. And the second motion?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the second motion reads that council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 92-18, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by adding Joanne Peacock to the Parks and Recreation Committee and Jesse Jones to the Sioux Lookout Environment Committee. And further, the council approves amending Schedule A to bylaw number 92-18, being a bylaw to make appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees by deleting Tiffany Thompson from the Daycare Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. I'll call for the vote, and silence indicates approval. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we are really down to a motion to adjourn?
That's correct.
It came so soon. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Mayor Lawrence, just the confirmatory bylaw.
Oh, I am sorry. Bylaw number 5220 to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Sioux for the May 20th, 2020 regular council meeting be read a first, second, and third time and passed. I lost my place. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. And councillors, staff, thank you very much. Motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Timpson, seconded by Councillor Bath. Silence, and then a rabble of good nights will indicate approval.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.